Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today is the start of another diary entry. So for this diary entry, I think the theme is going to be either sequels or seconds in a series. I'm not quite sure which of the two it's going to be, but this is a theme that I've been thinking on for a while because I do have quite a few series on the go. It is a little bit laughable, but maybe during this diary entry, I will show you clips of me updating my series spreadsheet so you can take a look and see how many series I'm actually in the middle of. In my defense, I did run the Book One Cozies Club, or the first in a series Cozy Mystery Book Club, for 5 years. And, when you run a book club like that, you're reading a lot of first in a series selections. And so I have quite a few cozy mystery series where I've read one or maybe two installments in that series on my spreadsheet. I currently run the Monochrome Manga Club, which we read 2 first in a series selections every month. And so I have quite a few manga series where I've read the first volume in a series. And so I really do need to work on my series. I need to comb through the series that I have on my spreadsheet and kind of decide whether or not I'm actually interested, or read the next installment in the series and decide if it's been that long since I read the previous installment. And so that's kind of going to be a running theme for the year. I do definitely want to make sure that I'm, focusing on my series in progress. And so this is going to be the first of those diary entries that will focus on sequels. So I think the other title that I might use for these would be continuing the series, because it was a phrase that I have been using on my blog for as long as I've been on BookTube and prior, because I did start kind of sharing my thoughts on my reads on my blog. So yeah, it was a thing that came up that was connected to a readathon that I had read about a long time ago, and I think it was called Continuing the Series, and that's why I was using the phrase. The other readathon that I first got into when I first started sharing my thoughts on my reads was called Beat the Backlist. I don't even know if that's a running readathon any longer, but those were the 2 kind of reading events that were my first reading events ever on the internet to participate in. So yeah, you're probably going to hear me share those phrases, and that's where those phrases came from. And so I'm going to continue just coming on here, probably just to let you know what I've read after I've read it and share my thoughts, unless there's something that really bothers me or I feel like I need to talk to you about in the middle of a read. So with that being said, let me tell you about the first book that I have finished for this theme. So the first book I finished for this theme was Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This is the second book in the Bride series. Now, I don't know if this is actually going to be a series or if it's just going to be a duology. But this follows directly the things that happen at the very end of Bride. So I can't even tell you what it's about because it would be spoilery. But I will say that this is more of a supernatural Omegaverse type book, I guess. Definitely has werewolves and vampires in it. And I didn't really enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed Bride. I guess I just don't enjoy the couple that was in this installment as much as I did the couple in Bride, the mysterious elements that came up throughout this book didn't grab me as much as the ones that occurred in Bride. There's just something that happens with one of the mysterious elements that comes up later in the books that I just don't enjoy. It was I'm trying to come up with an explanation that's not spoilery, but it's connected to a type of organization that I don't enjoy reading about. I guess that's the best way of putting it without actually telling you what type of organization that is. And so, yeah, I just didn't enjoy this one as much. I mean, it was a fine read. I did end up giving it 3 stars. I would read another installment in this world, though I don't feel like Ali Hazelwood left that open here, unless we follow one particular character a few years later from where this installment ends up. I think that might be a possibility, but in any case, I did enjoy Bride more than I enjoyed Mate, but Mate was still an enjoyable read. I ended up listening to this one entirely on audiobook because that was what was released to me from the library first. When I had gone on to put my library holds, I did put both the ebook copy and the audiobook copy because whichever one got to me first, it didn't matter to me. I will say that when I read Bride, I read an ebook copy, and so I wasn't familiar with the voices that were used for the audiobook for that installment. So when I started listening to the audiobook for Mate, I was kind of surprised at the tone of voice that was used for the characters. I had imagined that Misery's voice in my head was much higher, but it's pretty low in this narration. But in any case, it is a dual narrated audiobook, and I really liked how they presented the dual narration because all the female voices were voiced by the female narrator and all of the male voices were voiced by the male narrator. So it definitely made the conversations sound more like conversations rather than having the female character take one chapter and then switch over to a male character to this next chapter, and then having whoever is narrating at the time do both male and female voices. I really enjoyed the kind of back and forth banter, and it just makes a lot more sense to me to have books narrated that way. It's much more enjoyable to my ear, I will say. So really am curious to see if Ali Hazelwood is going to continue with this series. I do feel like her kind of YA novel and this particular series hit for me because they are YA and kind of supernatural paranormal type of books. I still have not read one of her contemporary or STEM romances, and truthfully I don't think that that's going to hit for me as much as Check and Mate, which was the YA novel, and this series did. So yeah, I'm glad that I finally was able to read Mate though, and it did come to me rather quickly, and so that was a nice surprise. But that's pretty much all I have to check in with you here for. I will say that this particular diary entry is going to have a big skip from here until April, because as of right now, it's March Mystery Madness, or it's almost March Mystery Madness. This is the end of February. And so I'm going to be reading for March Mystery Madness throughout the month of March. And then after March Mystery Madness is done, I will come back and continue with this diary entry. And so I just wanted to make sure that I shared my thoughts on this book with you before I completely forgot. And so, yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you today. I hope you are all having a good one, and I will chat with you later. So it's been a while. It is now April, and so it's been quite a bit since I've come to talk to you for this particular diary entry. But March Mystery Madness took up quite a bit of my reading time, and now that it's over, I am going to continue with this particular diary entry. So the two books that I finished most recently that I'm going to talk to you about today were actually books that I have read for March Mystery Madness. I just didn't get to finish them by the end of March. These actually finished on the 1st of April. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish them for March Mystery Madness. But I did really enjoy both of the books that I'm going to talk to you about right now. So I definitely want to share my thoughts and finally get back on track with this particular diary entry. So the first book I want to talk to you about is The Escape Game by Marissa Meyer and Tamara Moss. So you can see that this is an advanced reader's copy. My mother did bring this one home from her workplace, and that's how I was able to read the arc. This one actually doesn't come out until April 7th. So by the time you see this video, it should be available. But this one follows a girl, or I guess she's like an older teen. She had participated in this TV game show where you have teams competing against each other to complete escape rooms. And her sister had also competed in the same season of the TV show. However, when the TV show finale was being filmed, it was the two sisters' teams against each other, and the other sister was found dead on set. And so we are now in the subsequent season. The living sister is back as a participant. And it's kind of one of those controversial things because a lot of people think that she was the one that killed her sister, but she was never arrested for it. She, is out and about. She is back. She is back with a vengeance, competing on a team. And so with all of the publicity and everything, lots of people are interested, right? And then you've got her teammates who they only find out when they're on set that she is part of the cast for that season. But what a lot of them don't know is that she's back for one reason and one reason only. She wants to find out who killed her sister. And so we follow her and her teammates going through the escape rooms, trying to survive to get to the finale of the show. All in the meanwhile, she's trying to figure out what had happened back in the previous season and who might be a suspect as far as the murder of her sister goes. I really, really enjoyed this. I'm a little bit sad because I've read an arc because it's unfinished, right? There are sections in here that could be different, when it's released. Plus, in this particular edition, it's missing some of the illustrations. So for example, we have some place settings, right, for some maps that are going to be available when the physical release is issued that will show you what the room that they're working in looks like. So it's not really real important, I would say, feature, because I feel like the rooms were explained well enough that I could visualize it in my head without the picture. However, I think it would be really nice to see that, have it as an extra feature, right, as you're reading it. That being said, even though I didn't have those, I really, really enjoyed, especially the scenes where the teams are competing against each other and working the puzzles in the escape room, and seeing how long the teams took and some of the little quirks of the game that are being utilized and some of the features of the game show aspect, and the little rivalries that there have between the teams and sometimes the team members, and just little things like that. It was really interesting, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I definitely recommend that you check this one out if any of that sounded interesting to you. Unfortunately, this is the first in a series. I did not know that going in. I thought this was just a standalone, but it is very clear by the time you get to the end that this is the first in a series. Even when I had logged this on Goodreads as reading, I did not say that this is part of the series. Now, since I finished, though, it does now say that it's the first in a series. And you know how I am about series. I tend to try to not read series that aren't completely out yet, or are just come out, because I don't really enjoy the waiting. But with this one, I kind of feel okay with it because I did read an arc, therefore it's not a completed copy. So I would want to read the finished publication prior to going into a sequel. And because I enjoyed this so much, I don't think that's going to be an issue. So definitely check this one out when it comes out. Really, really enjoyable. And I'm looking forward to the next one. So that was the Escape Game. And then the last book I read was not one that I had planned on reading at all. It just so happened that at the end of the month, I was in need of an audiobook, because that I like to listen to audiobooks during my lunch break. And I only had 2 days, I think, till the end of March. And I didn't want to start my April reading before April. And so I was looking through Hoopla, trying to find a really quick listen, and I stumbled upon this one. This is called Newlywed and Slightly Dead. It's by Danielle, Garrett, and it's a cozy mystery following a woman who is a wedding planner in a world where there are supernatural beings. So she is working on a wedding between a vampire and a human, and she's kind of rising through the ranks of the company that she's with. And this is a pretty heavily publicized wedding. And so it's kind of one of those things where she kind of has to do a good job because she doesn't want it to look badly upon her company, especially with the fact that she was just recently promoted. And that was kind of a hot issue at the company that she's with. And so everything's going smoothly. They're doing the rehearsal dinner. It's widely known that the mother of the groom is not very happy with the choices that are being made. Not necessarily with the wedding plans itself, but the union between her son and a human and other things like that. And so they're going through this rehearsal dinner, and then she's found dead, the mother of the groom. And so that kind of throws everything into turmoil. And so we kind of follow our wedding planner trying to figure out what happened, who murdered the mother of the groom, and also navigating some personal things that are going on with her life, and trying to kind of smooth over, I guess is the right words, the situation, because things are not looking good for the company that she works with all of this bad publicity. And so I really, really enjoyed this one. It was kind of what I needed at the right time. I do think that my reading is much more like going in the way of the paranormal type mystery, as opposed to like, you know, the more contemporary type mysteries that I had been reading during March. It's just kind of where my interest is, I guess, because I really, really enjoyed this, and it was a much more enjoyable read than anything else that I was reading in March, other than the one first in a series manga that we had read for club that I had talked about. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. This is a really short cozy mystery series. It's only 3 installments plus a prequel. I just found out recently, as I was kind of researching, that Hoopla, at least my library's Hoopla, doesn't offer the next 2 or the prequel novella. I'm not much of a prequel reader unless I'm really, really into the series. And so what I usually do is read through the entire series first. And if I'm really wanting more from that story, I will go back and read a prequel. But it's not like something that I have to read in order to consider a series complete. And so anyway, my library's offerings doesn't include any more of the books in this series. And so I went to the author's website and was looking around, and it turns out that a bind up of the whole series, the prequel novella and the 3 installments, are being released, at least on audiobook, later in April. And so I think I'm definitely going to go ahead and invest in that. I may even also pick up a copy of the paperback. But I really, really enjoyed this one, and I definitely am looking forward to continuing in this series. So quite the find for me on Hoopla. And, you know, it just kind of goes back to that conversation I was having in my previous diary entry about maybe I need to find books to read that I have not heard other people talk about, because this is definitely one of those instances. Escape Game was kind of the same thing, because I had heard people say that they had just received like their arcs for this and that they were really excited to read it. However, I haven't heard anybody talk about it. And so I think for the foreseeable future, that's probably what I'm going to try to do. Not to say that I won't be reading things that I've heard other people talk about, but I'm definitely going to put more effort into trying to find reads that I haven't heard many people talk about, because I think that is really going to help my happiness levels as far as reading goes at the moment. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed these last 2 books that I read for March. Gave them both 4 stars. Even though I'm starting 2 new series, which is something that I don't need to be doing because I have so many series on the go. And I had originally intended this diary entry to focus on completing series, but it turns out it's just going to be one of those general series focused reads, because I think the rest of what I will be reading for this particular diary entry are going to be parts of series. And hopefully I will be focusing on series that I'm actually already in the middle of instead of starting new series. But that being said, I will be starting a couple new series, because I start 2 new series every month with my manga club. So I feel like that's an exception, though, because it's for a club and not like of my own volition. But yeah, I think we're definitely going to be focusing on series in this diary entry. Again, really, really enjoyed these last 2 books that I had finished. Definitely check out the Escape Game if it sounds interesting to you. And I think that's all I have to say for right now. So I will check back in with you when I have a little bit more reading done. So I have finished all of the things that I meant to finish for this video. I did decide that I was going to go ahead and participate in the Orilium Magical Readathon in the month of April. So because I have already completed my undergrad studies with my character, I am working on a higher calling. And so that makes it a lot easier for me because the higher callings are only dealing with page counts and not necessarily specific prompts. Like, there are categories of things that you should be reading from in order to hit those page counts for the higher calling, but it's not like, okay, look for a book with blue on the cover or something like that. It's not more specific. So I really felt like I would be able to participate and still read what I want to read much easier, which is why I decided to go ahead and participate. So I am working on the World Builder higher calling. It has a special discount, I guess, of credits if you had majored in certain callings. And one of those callings was Master of Elements, which is the one that I completed. And so it also had the lowest number of pages. And so with the extra credit that I'm getting in order to complete this particular higher calling, it's also going to make it a lot easier for me to actually complete the reading that I need to do for the spring semester. And so, yeah. So for World Builder, the three kind of categories of things that I need to be reading from is fantasy, which is non-urban fantasy, books with maps inside, and manga or graphic novel. So obviously I read some manga, and being that I wanted this particular diary entry to focus on series, I looked through my series and found 3 that I was really close to finishing. And so that's what I worked on for the last part of this video. So let me tell you which 3 manga series I have finished. So to start things off, the first manga series that I worked on completing was Fruits Basket. I have these in the collector's edition. I needed to read volumes 11 and volume 12. These are by Natsuki Takaya. These are published by Yam Press, rated teen. So in this series, we have a girl who has basically been abandoned by her remaining family. She was orphaned, and the remaining family she has doesn't want to take care of her. So she has been trying to get by any way she can. She ends up setting up a tent on a piece of property and is living off of that. But little does she know that that piece of property belongs to a family called the Soma family. And this family has a big secret. They are cursed by a curse of the zodiac or something like that. Whereas all of the members in the family who are cursed, and it's not all of them, it's just a few in every generation or so. If they are hugged by a member of the opposite sex, they actually turn into the zodiac animal that they have been assigned. And so she kind of comes in and kind of shakes things up. But there's also some things that she does which basically changes their lives forever. And so we kind of follow that whole thing throughout this series. This is a well-beloved series. It's very popular, but I have an unpopular opinion, and while I enjoy reading this series, I enjoyed it. I probably won't ever read it again. And I do not like the way that certain romantic relationships ended up at the end of the story. Now, if you start reading this series, I think it becomes very obvious very early on that there is only one way that this series is going to end. And I was never on board with that. Never on board with that. And I think several of the characters in the series belong in prison, and they are not in prison at the end of the series. There are very problematic relationships in this series. There's lots of different forms of abuse that is talked about within this series. And so I ended up giving both of these volumes 3 stars. Overall, I would say this series is a 3-star series for me. I do not believe I will ever read this series again. However, I have these beautiful editions, and since I have collected them, I'm probably just going to keep them around. Maybe as I age, I'll be able to look back and not have the things that bother me so much about this series bother me as much. But as of right now, I really have no thought in my mind that I will ever reread this series. So we'll see. I will keep them. They're gorgeous editions. I love the illustrations of the characters. And there are characters in this series that I do enjoy, but there's too much other stuff that I don't enjoy, which is the hindrance for me on this series. So with that being said, I am glad to finally have finished reading this series, and I can finally say that I have completed reading this one. So that's the first series that I finished. The next series I decided to work on was Can't Stop Cursing You. This is art by Natsuko Uruma, an original story by Kensuke Koba. This one's published by Yen Press, rated older teen. So I read volumes 3 and volume 4. These are set in a world where we have curse breakers and curse killers. And we follow our character here on the cover, who is a curse breaker investigating cases involving curse killers. I really enjoyed this series. I am very surprised that this series is as short as it is, because I do feel that this series could have gone on quite a bit longer. There are things that are kind of left up in the air at the very end. It definitely leaves the door open for additional story to be added to the series. But unfortunately, where we are right now, this is the end. I really enjoyed all of the cases. They were all very interesting. The way that the curse killings came about was interesting. Our character here on the cover is somebody who you have interest in seeing how he investigates all of these things, and he has a special ability that helps him to do that, which, again, very interesting. But there's like this air of suspicion around him. You don't really know like what's going on with him, what may be under the surface maybe. And I feel like that's part of my letdown with the end of the series, is because we don't really get much in the way of trying to dig into that question. I think a lot of exploration could have been done with that character. And of course, a lot more cases could have been presented. We could have seen more instances. There is something that's dropped towards the very end of the last volume that, like I said, definitely leaves it open to have more story added on. But where we are, I was very happy with what I've read, very interested in the story, enjoyed how everything played out, enjoyed the characters, and so I ended up giving both of these volumes 4 stars. I would definitely read more if the mangaka had ever decided to maybe do a spin-off series, maybe, because I feel like there could be the opportunity for that, maybe, if we didn't continue with our investigator here on the cover. But I do believe that the mangaka also has a couple of other series that have not been translated into English yet, and I would be very interested in reading those as well. I definitely enjoyed the art style also, so really enjoyed these 4 stars. And since this kind of comes off the cuff of March Mystery Madness, I would definitely suggest this as a series if you want to explore some manga, more on the supernatural, maybe horror-ish side of mystery, to try to check this out for March Mystery Madness, because it's definitely a good one. And so I finished those 2 volumes, and then my most recent finish is 2 volumes of Ladies on Top. So we've got volume 5 and volume 6. So these are by Nejiganameta, published by Steamship, which is an imprint of 7 Seas. And these are rated older teens 17 plus. Now, this series follows our couple here on the cover. And at the beginning of the series, our male character is fresh off of a breakup with his girlfriend at the time because he has a problem performing in the bedroom. And there's a specific kind of reason as to why this is happening to him, but he's kind of down in the dumps, and a contract worker comes to the office place, which is our female character here on the cover. They start getting to know each other. She has been very unfulfilled in the bedroom as well, and she definitely wants something that society says should not be as far as her role in the bedroom. And so she meets our male character, they hit it off, and they start a relationship and also start to explore what each other wants in the bedroom and be supportive of what the other's needs are in that aspect. And so I really enjoyed this series. I thought it was very interesting. I'm not quite sure why this is only older teen 17 plus, because there are definite sexual situations that happen in here. There's nudity, but I guess there's not like a lot as far as the act of sexual relations that is shown on page. You kind of just get the gist of what's going on, so maybe that's why it's not mature instead. But in any case, I enjoyed the journey we had with our characters. In these volumes, we meet family members of our characters, and so I thought that was really nice because it kind of gives a natural progression to their relationship. And then obviously here we have a spoilery picture, but this is where it goes. And so I really enjoyed watching them from the beginning of the relationship to where we leave them. And so, yeah, I ended up giving these 4 stars as well. Really glad to have read these and glad to have finished another series. And so that is everything that I have read as far as this series spectacular. I definitely want to do more episodes that focus on my series progress because it is something that I really enjoy. As far as reading series, I feel like I'm much more of a series reader. I am exploring more like standalones more recently. I feel like that's probably because I've been reading a lot more romance, and the romance, while they do have several series, the romance that I've been reading have been mostly like one-offs. And so I think that might be why I feel like I'm reading a few more like standalones. But I am really a series reader. And so I really have quite a few series that I need to work on. And I think in order to illustrate that for you, we're going to take a peek at my series spreadsheet. And I'm going to go ahead and update a little bit with you, show you what the series I have that are on the spreadsheet, which are active, how I update my spreadsheet, and how I organize all of the things and things like that. I thought that might be really interesting to share with you. So we're going to flip over to my spreadsheet now, and we will be back right after. Okay, so here we are at my series progress spreadsheet. I do have this set up so that it separates novels, manga, light novels, comics, what I've completed, what I've DNF'd, and what I've completed before I landed on this final form of the spreadsheet that I have been using for the last, I would say, year or so. I went ahead and made all of the like status things and the percentage progress bars and things like that. And so this is how I've been tracking my series and what I know that I have like hidden in my series started collection, I guess. I did alphabetize this, and so we are going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. I'll try not to go really fast, but you can see that I do have status progress here. So some of these, like the year-round Christmas mystery series, I am up to date, and I choose to keep it on the in progress section of my spreadsheet as opposed to moving it to complete and then having to move it back if there's another one, because I'm not quite sure if these will have another one, but I enjoy them enough that I would prefer to just keep it on the active list. And so, yeah, some of these you'll see are up to date. Some of them have notes like this that say need to restart. And I did restart the Caster Chronicles in 2025, I think. But yeah, I have not gotten that one to completion yet. So that one is definitely one that I'm trying to currently work on. As we go through here, the Halloween Bookshop Mystery Series, I believe, was new to me when I read it, but I don't do a really great job about checking back to see like when new volumes or installments are added to update the number in series list. So there's probably another installment out, possibly, and it's just that I haven't checked on it. And so, yeah, as we go down, you can see I have quite a few. And then we are down at the bottom of the alphabets here. So everything below the Z are things that I have started in 2026. This is how I like to know what I have started in the year. Once the end of the year has passed and the new year has started, I will re-alphabetize. So all of these will go into their correct positions on the spreadsheet, and then anything new that I start in 2027 will be listed here at the bottom. So far in 2026, I have started 7 new novel series, and you can see that I have the Touch of Magic and Escape Game series, which I have added in the month of April to this spreadsheet. So Touch of Magic is in progress with 3, and then the Escape Game brand new. So I am up to date with that. So before we get to the manga, you can already see that I am at 121 on the spreadsheet. But keep in mind that row 1 is my header line. So technically, I'm only in the middle of 120 novel series, which is still a lot. But this is just how I roll. I am a series reader, and this is very typical for me to carry so many series. I do want to point out how this particular series is highlighted here. This is how I am kind of flagging the series that I have worked on over the year, so that I know how many series that I have touched on this spreadsheet while going through the year. So I'm not doing too good. I think this is the only one that might be highlighted so far, but I definitely want to put in more work on doing that. So that is how I distinguish the series that I have worked on in the year. So let's go over to the manga tab right now. Again, we are in alphabetical order. Some of these over here, the number in series, that's how I know that the series is complete. And so the number over here will not be changing. So I know this is a complete series. This particular tab, I do not have all of these pull downs showing as in progress. And that's because I haven't actually read from it in a while. And so I like to make sure that I put it in progress once I have read from it. In fact, this particular series is one that I definitely would like to read this year. So we'll see about making that happen. But that is why these particular numbers are highlighted. That means that the series is complete. But since we have 3 series on this spreadsheet that I need to mark as complete, I will show you how I do that and what happens when I do. So the first one we have here is Can't Stop Cursing You. I've just finished this one. So we're going to go ahead and change this to 4. I already have it as 4, and again, it's highlighted because it is a completed series. This over here changes to 100%. Year completed. I do have to fill this in before I do the pull down, and I will show you why. I'm going to put 2026. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this as complete. And therefore, it moves off of this spreadsheet. So before I show you where it went, let's go ahead and do the other 2. So the next one should be Fruits Basket, Collector's Edition. This I didn't even bother highlighting, but it is complete. I could highlight it now if I wanted to. And then 2026 as the year complete and complete. And then the last one I have here is Ladies on Top. Just right here. Again, did not highlight this, but I'll go ahead and do that. We'll change this over to 6. 2026. And mark is complete. Okay. So all 3 of the manga series that I just finished are now off of this tab. I will go ahead and scroll down slowly again so that you can see what I'm working with here. I do have several series ongoing as far as manga goes. Some notes over here like I need to restart this series. And in fact, I am collecting this now because it is being republished, which is great. So this will eventually go back down to 1 over here so that I will restart. But yeah, I have several series here that are complete, and I could complete this particular one though. I'm still on the fence about whether or not I want to read it. So until I decide it is going to stay here. This was a Monochrome Manga Club selection. I'm scrolling down some more. We have one that's up to date here. At this point, I don't know if this one is actually going to have any more. It is on publication hiatus. And I should probably just move that over to complete, but we'll just leave it alone for right now. And so, yeah, lots of series here, even more than the novels. And that is because a lot of the selections I did for the Christmas, or I should say Manga Advent Calendar project were volume 1s. And I found several series that I wanted to complete. I also do the Monochrome Manga Club, and we do 2 first in a series selections every month. And a lot of those I'd like to continue as well, so they all go onto this spreadsheet, even though I've only read 1 volume. So, again, as with the novels, it's in alphabetical order, so under the last letter, so for this one is Y, these are the series that I have started in 2026 so far, that I am deciding whether or not I want to continue. So we have 8. So 1 more than the novels, but that is okay. And so, yeah, I'll quickly go through the light novels tab with you. Not as many here, but I definitely want to bulk up the titles here because I do have several light novels that I have sitting on my shelf that I have not read yet. And so, not too bad here. And comics also, hardly any. But I do want to explore more comics as well. So maybe we'll see a little bit of a bulk up here also. So where did those series go that I just marked? They went to this spreadsheet. So this is my completed series spreadsheet. It does not have very many, as you can see. There are only 29, which is actually 28 because the first row is my headers row. And so this is basically what I've compiled since like putting together this version of my spreadsheet. So you can see that I have a couple here from like really far back. Most of what I have here, 2024, 2025, and then 2026. This does include manga as well as novels, comics, light novels. So everything that I've completed will go over here. You can see that the formatting is a little bit weird. I need to figure out what I want to do with that. But in any case, you can see that I have completed 5 series in 2026 so far. So not great, but not terrible either. And so, yeah, I'd like to definitely work on that. And then the next tab over is my DNF tab. And these are series that I have DNF'd. So the most recent one that I talked about is this one right here, the Patrick Hidstrom series by Camilla Lockberg. I DNF'd this series in March for March Mystery Madness. And then the note here, DNF Book 2. So yeah, everything on this tab over here is what I completed before I updated the spreadsheet to its current version. The colored rows are series that I did decide to DNF, just in case you are curious about that. And so yeah, I used to just keep them on a list like this, but I feel like the way that I'm doing it now works much better for me. So this is what my spreadsheet looks like now. And I hope you enjoyed seeing this kind of behind the scenes view of what I work with when I'm trying to keep up with series, when I'm looking for things that I want to possibly read and things like that. So with that being said, let me flip you back over to present me while I close out the rest of this video. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that look at my series spreadsheet. As you can see, I do have quite a few series on there. I'm not necessarily wanting to like work that down to 0. It would be nice to like go through and like make sure that the series that are on there are series that I do still have interest in. So you'll probably see me do more of these series spectaculars episodes throughout the year and going forward on my channel. But for right now, I'm really happy with the progress that I've made. I think I said that the Ali Hazelwood I'm going to count as complete for right now because we don't know if there's going to be any more in that particular series. So since I'm going to count that as complete, I would say I completed 4 series. I started 2 series. So I made a 50% progress on my ongoing series because I did add 2. But that's okay. You know, like I said, I am very much a series reader. So I'm not going to ever say that I'm not going to start any series, especially with the fact that I run a manga club and we are constantly reading first volumes in series. So I'm constantly adding series as far as manga goes. I do feel like it's a bit easier for me to finish manga series than it is to finish a novel series, but I definitely want to work on the list that I have and just enjoy, reading in general. So with that being said, I think that's all I have as far as the reading goes. As we do with every episode of my diary entries this year, we are going to do some Advent unboxings before I end this video. So we'll start off with my yarn Advent calendar. This is 2025 yarn advent calendar from Stitchin' with Yarn. It was a Charlie Brown Christmas inspired yarn advent calendar. And so we have our mini skein number 8 here. So let's see what this skein is inspired by or called. This is called Try to Catch Snowflakes on Your Tongue. So let's see what this one looks like. I would think there's going to be some blue. Oh, not as blue as I thought. Very interesting. It kind of almost comes off a little summery because the blues are coming off a little bit darker on screen than it is in real life. But this really kind of looks like Little Mermaid to me. If I like want to associate something to it, this Little Mermaid. We've got the kind of yellowish of the flounder with the turquoise, right? We've got the red of Sebastian and maybe like Ariel's hair. Got the blue and the white of the sea spray and maybe some of the water and stuff. But very, very nice. I do really enjoy this one. I do kind of feel like it does kind of go with the last mini that we had also, but again, it's been a little bit since I've opened that one, so I'm going just based off of memory, but really, really happy with this. And so yeah, really excited to have another one of those mini skeins. And then we have the Nido Advent. So this one, we're on day number 8, which is over here. It's a mini. Let's see what we've got here. Sweet Twist. Oh, it's a little like candy. Again, it's one of those ones that are like empty in the middle, but it's still that really squishy rubbery. There is some like air kind of resistance inside a little bit. So still very, very squishy. It's a good like soft kind of stress ball type thing. It's got glitter, like a pink metallic glitter in there. Really, really cute. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that back inside. Close that up. And that is what we've got for our Nido Advent. So that's pretty much going to do it for me today. I'm not quite sure yet what the next theme is going to be. Definitely going to be working on the Orilium Magical Readathon, like I said. I put in a good chunk of pages with these volumes. I think I am almost done, actually, with my pages. Because with the credit, instead of 2,000 pages, I need to read 1,800 pages this month. Personally, I don't know off the top of my head, like, what my average page count is per month. I don't usually go by number of pages. I usually figure that I average about 4 or 5 novels in a month, and then any additional manga. I don't usually count how many volumes of manga I read per month. It's usually going to be at the minimum 2 volumes for the first in the series selections, the 1 volume for the Land of the Lustrous series read that we're doing, and then 2 or 3 volumes of the other series read for right now. Dr. Stone is our other series read, and we've just come down from 3 volumes to 2 volumes every month. So that's 5 volumes of manga, roughly, a month, on top of my 4 or 5 novels. So I guess it would be interesting to see like how many pages I actually average per month in a year. And so maybe I can start tracking that. But I am pretty close to finishing my 1,800 pages already. I think I'm like 13 something. So I'm not going to have any problem reaching the 1,800 pages as far as the spring semester goes. And so, yeah, really, really excited to read more manga. I am working on a couple of novels as well. And so we're going to see things probably in the next episode that are fantasy novels, novels with maps inside, or volumes of manga or graphic novels. And so, yeah, I'm really, really excited. There are quite a few things that I'd like to, or I should say that I have my eye on. Definitely going to try to work on more manga series if I can. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me today. Let me know down in the comments below what you've been reading. Are you participating in the Orilium Magical Readathon? If so, what calling are you working towards, or what higher calling have you decided to work on? I would really love to know. Are you a series reader, or do you feel like you read more standalones? I would love to know that as well. And if nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a globe emoji, or maybe a rain cloud emoji, because we might be getting some rain here, which I'm really excited about, down in the comments below. It would be greatly appreciated. It would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.